This morning we're going to solve for unknowns, and I'm calling this lesson number 2 because we've already done this one time, and now we're going to add in something a little bit trickier, a little bit more complicated, but I know that you're up for the challenge. So we have been doing problems like this: 0.06x equals 24. And we've been thinking about how do we get x by itself because we're trying to solve for x. X is our unknown. We can think of it like x is our question mark. It's like what times x equals 24. Because anytime you have a number next to a variable such as x, then you know it's a multiplication problem. So something which is x times 0.06 equals 24. So what we do to get x by itself is we divide both sides by 0.06. And the reason why we use division is because division is the opposite of multiplication. So whenever we're trying to get x by itself, we're going to do the opposite of what we see here. So in this case, we had a multiplication problem, so now we divide. We have to do it on the left side where the x is and on the right side where the 24 is because we have an equal sign. And an equal sign always says make things equal. Whatever you do to one side, always do to the other. So we've done that here. Well, we know that 0.06 divided by 0.06 is simply 1. Therefore, those two things cross themselves out, and x is equal to 24 divided by 0.06. Now, if I don't want to do that math in my head, I can come right over here and do it as a long division problem. And I'm going to end up moving this decimal spot point over 2 spaces, and this decimal spot point 2 spaces. And so now I have 6 goes into 2,400. Well, we know that 6 goes into 24 4 times, with the remainder of 0, and so now I can easily just fill in these last two zeros. So the answer is x equals 400. Okay, so that's a problem that we've been doing, right? We know how to do this. We know how to use decimals and long division and multiplication of decimals to solve for unknowns. So now it's time to add in the tricky part. We're going to do a problem that I want you to write down, and it's going to have both multiplication and addition in it. And we're going to solve for an unknown, knowing that we have two parts to this problem. All right, so we're going to try 0.09, so you're going to write this down in your notebook. X, which is our unknown, plus 4 equals 4.9. Okay, so what we need to do first is we need to get that x by itself. And we're going to actually do that by subtracting 4 from both sides first. And that's because right over here on the left where the x is, these two things are pretty attached to each other. And if I divide by 0.09, I have to divide this by 0.09 and this by 0.09, which gets really complicated. So an easier way to think about it is always start with the addition part first. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Once again, because I have that equal sign, right? This is going to cancel itself out and make 0, which is going to leave me with 0.09x. And this problem right here is going to leave me with 0.9. Do you guys see that? So these two things are equal to each other. Whoops. I wish that this was more even, so I'm going to make that even there. Okay. Now, that was the first step, a little tricky. Now I'm going to go back to what I know to do, which is divide both sides by the number that was attached to x. And if that, of course, is equal to 1, and what is this? Well, x equals 0.9 over 0.09. Well, I can come over here and do my long division. 0.9 is my dividend. 0.09 is my divisor. I can move that decimal point, and it moved 2 spaces, so it has to move 2 spaces here. So now it says 9 goes into 90 how many times? Well, I'm not going to even do the long division part of that because I know the answer is 10. So x equals 10. And that makes sense because over here we're basically asking the question, over here we're basically asking the question, how many hundredths go into a tenth? And we already know the answer to that, 10. How many hundredths go into a 10? 10. Okay. And I always like to put boxes with my pre-algebra problems on the very end because it reminds me that that's the final answer. I've worked the problem down kind of in a triangular shape, and occasionally I'll come over to the side and work something to the side like a long division or a checking of something, and then from there I'm ready to go. Okay, so now you are going to try a problem on your own. I'm going to give you one right here. You can pause the video and try it on your own, and then come back and check and see if you got the same answer as I did. So we're going to do, just trying to get this all erased here. Sometimes things don't want to erase. Okay, let's try this one. We're going to do 0.6a. A is just our variable, it's our unknown, plus 2.8 equals 4.66. Okay, so you go ahead and pause the video and you're going to try this one on your own. Remember that if you have an addition part to your problem, you're going to subtract first. If you have a multiplication part, you're going to divide, and you're probably going to do that secondly. All right, go ahead and pause the video and you try this on your own. All right, you probably came back to this final step here and you saw that our long division was really nice to us. It ended up with an even number so we didn't have to keep going. And a equals 31. So once again, you can see that I started out with subtraction and then I moved into division. All right, and I got a by itself, and now there's my box at the very end. So I'm working my problem down in a nice, neat funnel shape all the way to my answer. Right? I don't actually need those green lines. It looks really sloppy. I don't need those arrows either on my page. I just put them there right now so you could see what I was talking about. So now you're going to go ahead and go back to Google Classroom and try some of the practice problems I have for you. I think you're going to do a great job on this.